I flew on Hawaiian Airlines Boeing 717. These unique T-tailed airliners are essentially a modern version of the iconic Douglas DC-9 and form the backbone of Hawaiian Airlines' inter-island network. The 717 itself was actually the last airliner designed by McDonnell Douglas and was called the MD-95 before they merged with Boeing. From 1998 until 2006, 156 of these planes were built as the Boeing 717. Unfortunately, like most McDonnell Douglas airplanes these days, the 717s too have steadily been disappearing around the world. These days, there are just 3 airlines that still fly them: Delta, QantasLink, and of course Hawaiian. Both Delta and QantasLink have already announced the retirement of their 717s in the next couple of years, although Delta's timeline could change. Hawaiian, however, has not yet made a decision as to their replacements, but it will be soon. So, after enjoying a gorgeous day here in Honolulu, we spent the night and woke up early to hop on one of these rare planes. Honolulu's Daniel K. Inouye International Airport is the largest airport in the state of Hawaii, and is, naturally, the main hub for Hawaiian Airlines. As you can tell, Hawaiian operates an extensive inter-island network out of Terminal 1 here, which is a unique operation in itself. Despite being a chain of relatively close islands, there isn't any ferry service between the major ones, mostly because of the challenging ocean conditions that come with being an archipelago in the middle of the Pacific. As a result, air travel is still the fastest and most convenient way to get around, and so with dozens of flights a day to choose from, it wasn't hard to find a quick round trip to one of the neighboring islands. This morning, we'd be briefly heading northwest to Lihue on the southeast coast of the island of Kauai. This would be a round trip on 2 different 717s before catching our flight back to mainland North America later that afternoon. The first of those 2 flights would be operated by this 22-year-old 717-200, registered as November 484 Hotel Alpha. This plane was delivered new to Hawaiian Airlines in 2001 and has flown for them since. I can only imagine just how many takeoffs and landings, or cycles, this plane has logged in that time. Apparently, these planes sometimes fly up to 16 flights in a day, which is just crazy to think about. You can see why they're looking at replacing them though. Even so, I have always loved the look of the DC-9 family through its various iterations, like the MD-80, MD-90, and now the 717. I've flown on quite a few of Delta 717s years ago when they flew to Calgary, but Hawaiians have always been one of those types I've wanted to try. As early as it is, and as jet-lagged as we were, I was very glad to be flying one of these now. Let's go see what island hopping with Hawaiian Airlines is like. For this flight, I grabbed a seat towards the back in row 24, which, well, I think you know why. The legroom in Hawaiian's main cabin on these planes is a bit tight, and supposedly varies from 29 inches to 31 inches of pitch. That's good enough for these short flights though, because out the window is this perfect view of the engine right next to you. These engines are BMW Rolls-Royce BR715s, designed specifically for these short-range, high-frequency flights. They're a big part of the reason why these planes have been such a great fit for Hawaiian's operation. That said, I was hoping the window would have been a little bit cleaner on the outside, but I knew this would sound great regardless. It is a testament to the engineers at Douglas that the DC-9's basic design continues to fly almost 60 years later. Back in January, this 55-year-old DC-9 visited Calgary on an overnight stop, and I couldn't help but think back to that moment as we were about to fly on this distant but not so unfamiliar relative. But I digress. It was soon time to hear those BR715s in all their glory. Here's the departure from Honolulu, starting up and taking off from runway 8 right. that sound and just the feeling of sitting next to those engines at takeoff power is easily my favorite part about these planes. We soon leveled off at 14,000 feet and stayed there for just a few minutes until we started descending. In that time though, I looked around the seat a bit, which had this extremely small tray table that flipped down and didn't do much else. I guess the actual time you're in the air to use them is pretty limited anyway. Despite that limited time at cruise though, the cabin crew sprang into action and started handing out these juice cups to every passenger. That was quite a surprise since I really wasn't expecting to get anything on a flight this short. What a great touch though. Below that tray table was this smallish seatback pocket with the usual air sickness bag. Also there was Hawaiian Airlines in-flight magazine, which had plenty of reading material, including a menu for their longer flights, terminal maps of some of their larger destination airports, and a comprehensive route map from their Pacific-wide network to today's barely 100-mile-long flight. Lastly, they also had the safety card for the 717. We spent a grand total of 21 minutes in the air on this flight, and after going through all of that, we were already well into the descent. However, just because of where I was sitting, I was looking straight into the sun, and the already dirty window did not help matters. Fortunately, the other side where my friend Will was sitting had a much better view. Here's the arrival into Lihue, landing on runway 35. After landing here, seeing as we'd be flying back on a different 717, we tried our luck and asked if we could see the flight deck. Fortunately, our crew were more than happy to let us take a peek up front. It was so cool to see the 717's modernized flight deck for ourselves, and just how different it looks. Compare that to the, admittedly, already gutted flight deck of the former DC-9 in Thunder Bay from last year, and it is like night and day. I am well aware of just how quick these turnarounds are for Hawaiian, so we were both very thankful to the crew for letting us up front for a minute. We made our way into Lihue's terminal, and this section here seemed to be a pretty modest size for the inter-island flights. Looking outside though, it became very clear that our 90-minute turnaround was not nearly enough time to spend here. The island of Kauai is also known as the Garden Island because of the sheer abundance of lush greenery. It also has some truly spectacular scenery, as we got a glimpse of from the air the previous day. The town of Lihue itself has a population of just 8,000, but the airport handles 1.8 million passengers a year with two 6,500-foot runways. The busiest route here is obviously between here and Honolulu, with over 750,000 passengers a year. The airport also has flights to the western coast of North America too, and even Vancouver with WestJet. Soon enough, our previous ride was already pushing back for the departure back to Honolulu, which we happily caught taking off. I wonder what normal people do in a place like this. Just a few minutes later, our next aircraft had landed and was taxiing in. November 494 Hotel Alpha was another Boeing 717-200, slightly newer at just under 19 years old, but with quite a bit of history. This one started out with Midwest Airlines in 2004, then flew with Mexicana Click for just a few months in 2010 until they and their parent company ceased operations. It then flew with Volotea Airlines of Spain from 2013 until 2016, and has been with Hawaiian since 2017. Now, even if we didn't get to stay and see the rest of the island properly, this short stop has definitely convinced me to come back for a proper vacation. Still, this was totally worth doing just for the 717. It is such a unique operation that you can only find here in Hawaii, and really is worth going out of your way for, especially while these rare planes are still around. Pretty soon though, it was time for us to head back to Honolulu. Now, something I missed while boarding the previous plane is that Hawaiian has these little nameplates near the main entry door explaining the names of each aircraft. That is such a great little detail. I made my way to the back again and sat 2 rows up in 22A this time, which thankfully had a much cleaner window and still a view of the engine. This flight wasn't nearly as full either, so I lucked out with an empty seat next to me too. The doors were closed not long afterwards, and we were already pushing back. Here's the departure from Lihue off of runway 3.
To release, lift the hoist the yellow cup over your nose and mouth. Secure it over your nose and mouth. Laptops and items equivalent in size must be stowed during test. Take off later in your trenches and goodbye with us. Mahalo and enjoy your flight.
This flight was equally brief, climbing up to 13,000 feet and spending only another 22 minutes airborne. The cabin crew still handed out some more drinks, and I got a cup of water, much like the juice one from before. Given the routes that these planes fly, there's not a ton of time to actually look around the cabin, or even get up for that matter. Nevertheless, Hawaiian 717 seat 128 passengers, with 120 in their main cabin in the DC-9 family's trademark 2-3 configuration. They also have 8 seats in first class at the very front, with 2 rows in a 2-2 layout. Arguably though, the best seats of them all are right in these last few rows of the cabin, except for the ones where you're just looking at the cowling the whole time. As bare bones as those economy seats are, again, you're not really in them for long enough, but I do like the colors that they chose. For the rest of the journey though, I kinda took a moment to appreciate this plane a bit. Even though I flew on a bunch of them years ago with Delta, and the fact that they still have something like 70 717s in service, there's just something about flying on one over these crystal clear tropical waters. This whole morning-long round trip was just a ton of fun. Hawaiian's cabin crew were all very welcoming, and they really do get those drink services done in a downright impressive amount of time. Hawaii itself is such a genuinely beautiful place, and I definitely need to come back for much longer than a single night. This stopover still worked out great as a mini vacation of sorts on our way back from Japan. Plus, let's be real, there was no way I was going to come to Hawaii and not fly on one of these planes. The 717 really is perfect for Hawaiian's operation, and I don't envy their challenge of finding a replacement. Whatever the future of inter-island flying looks like for them, I'm very happy I got the chance to fly on the Hawaiian Airlines 717. Thanks so much for watching this inter-island adventure with Hawaiian Airlines, and I'll see you next time.